Hi, my name is Dipendra Adhikari. This is the presentation on the research paper that was given to us by Dr. Liu for INFS 770. My presentation is detecting hotspot on online forums using text mining and sentiment analysis. That is the paper written by these guys right here. The sentiment analysis, what it refers to is the emotional polarity computation, right? And then the purpose is to determine the attitude of the speaker or the writer with respect to some specific topic, right? This is what the sentiment analysis is. And the hotspot detection and the forecast is studied using the sentiment analysis and text mining approaches. And then approach is developed using the two stages: emotional polarity computation and integrated sentiment analysis based on key means, clustering, and ASPM in this paper. How this research is conducted? This is conducted in three streams of related work: dynamic cluster analysis of the online forums, that and sentiment analysis of the web documents on those forums, and then perform the text mining using the machine learning on those forum data. Models and methodology. There are three different modules they come up with. I will talk about later on. And the methodology is to collect the data into the cleansing, calculate the sentiment value for the text and then the documents, and then run that data through the k-means to find the clustering and then the hotspot, and then use the SPM to forecast that hotspot. So this is the models and methodology. The picture was taken from the paper. I have highlighted the one here on the red. The module 1, which is basically they did this research on the Chinese sports forum called the Sina forum, sports forum, where in this model the model is is to convert the text into a value-based data through the text sentiment computation analysis, right? And in this mode, new keyword-based approach is introduced to calculate the sentiment values of each piece of text, right? Right here, by use of commercial Java library that those guys used, which is developed by Loot Enterprise Research and Hownet Lexicons. And through this approach, what it does is basically to yield the integer value, right? And then we'll talk briefly about how that integer value is calculated later on with the sign. And then the absolute value means the polar emotional intensity, and then the sign means the polarity of emotional polarity, right? On the model 2, now we have the data right here. The data is fed into k-means and calculate the clustering values for each time period. So there is a certain time period in there where they would feed the data for that time period into the k-means and then come up with the clustering, right? And obviously we know that we have to specify the number of the clusters that we want to create when running through the k-means. So in order to run the k-means, basically they pass 5 different type of data, right? Number of the topics on the post, average number of the responses on the topic, and then text sentiment value of those topics, and proportion of the positive post, and then proportion of the negative post among all the topics. And then on the third module, and basically in this module, after running that, they identify the hotspots that are close to the theoretical centers of the cluster. The module 3 is the SPM based model classification module. This actually uses the forum performance data and cluster values to train machine learning model and apply the trained trained machine learning module to the new forums for hotspot identification, right? So in other words, the k-means clustering result is fed into this SVM as an unsupervised learning outputs. So that's how it has been done. We talked about this earlier. So in order for them to do the data, now how did you collect the data, right? They created three for relational database tables. The URL, the forms URL and the name was stored in this table. The URL on this table, the URL links, and then they crawl down through they traverse the links and crawl down to all the posts, and then they separated the topic and then the comment, and then using two templates, XML templates, and restore them to the respective tables down here. How they calculate the sentiment of the text is basically semantic orientation based approach was used, where they use the computer based automatic word segmentation tool to decompose the word in the current post, and they assign the value to each of the word and then that has which is the sentiment value of that keyword, and then for the whole forum they actually sum of that the value of the is word sentiment value, and then come up with the sentiment value for the post for on that document. Now this is how the VJ is calculated, right? We talked about those number of posts and response and sentiment and positive perception, negative perceptions of all documents. That's how this is the VJ, right? VJ is the sentiment value of the current document. Now, for emotional polarity of any of the forums, during the during that feature extraction process on that document, right? They actually use the vector VIJ. This is to represent the emotional polarity of the forums. This is the emotional polarity of the forums. This FR, FJ, all right, at any given time. For each time window, which is WI with a given K, now a clustering view of all the forums is obtained. In other words, I mean, in this test there were 49 forums. After cleansing, removing the noise data and all that kind of stuff, they came down to 31, and that's why I was talking to the 31. So and our clustering view of all those 31 forums is obtained with the central forum for each of the cluster, right? So after that, for each window, which is I talked about that earlier, the clustering result by k-means is presented in a vector containing 31 elements with 0 and 1. 0 and 1, and then 0 being the non-hotspot and the 1 being the hotspots, right? So now then after that they use that's how the hotspot was calculated using the k-means clustering, and then the SPM for the SPM they feed the data into the SPM model from the last time window, so the data is already there, right, from the k-means. And then as for the output of the SPM, which is the supervised learning tool in this research, the clustering result by the k-means approach within the current time window is used. Okay, now the data from current window is utilized to carry out the prediction for the next time window, right? And by inputting the data obtained from the current one. So suppose there are 2 time windows, let's say, and then W1, W2, whatever, all the way to WT, and then current one is the W1. If the forecast for WI plus 1 is expected, then what they do is they train the SPM by inputting the forum's representation vectors of WI minus 1 is the previous week or the previous time period, and then setting the output as the clustering result of the W1 by k-means, which is we already have that. Then the trained SPM generates the classification output for WI, which is the SPM result is that SPM result is compared to the k-means clustering result for WI plus 1 in order to compare the data and then find out whether how accurately this is actually forecasting the hot spots detection. So let's say right here in this case for LIJ on the output, right? The clustering result for FJ, which is the forum, whatever that J would be in any given window, this is calculated through the k-means, right? Now another in this case that Lij plus 1j, which is in SPM output, represents the binary, means the clustering result for the Fj in again that time window by actually I'm sorry, this represents the binary classification result for the Wi by the SPM, right? It's the binary classification either 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. The empirical results and discussions, this is all about how the test was conducted, how the sentiment value was calculated. So obviously the first they had to do the cleansing and data preparation. The second thing was to text sentiment calculation for the topics post using Avnet dictionaries. Basically what they did was, since it was done on the Chinese online forums, they used the Chinese no, I think there was a dictionary, and then it was I believe like there were six or it was divided into, I think that 6 or 6 I think, well, the positive, negatives, modified, something like that. And then actually, there were like 4, 5 or 8 kind of different type of. That's how it was divided, and then the value was assigned to each of those groups, and then that's how they calculated the sentiment value, right? They actually used a different tool to calculate the sentiment value as well, but they ran through their algorithm, right? And computation using the k-means of the clustering basically to calculate the hotspot, and then they used the SPM classification to. They ran the SPM classification to forecast the hotspot, right? Now look at the result here through the k-means clustering. You see that the top 10 forums, and then if you look at the SPM classifications also, you'll see that the top 4 forums, they're actually same. In fact, what they found out in this experiment is that 80% of the times the SPM and the k-means clustering results were very consistent. At the end of the day, in order to what they did was the comparative study between the k-means and SPM using the 5 metrics: accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity, positive predictive value, negative predictive value, and then they found highly consistent results between k-means and then SPM clustering. This would be it for today. Thank you for the for listening to this presentation. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.